Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going over the 1.11 patch notes. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it. So first we have Aurelion Sol, whose level up condition went from 20 total power to 25 total power. Now, Aurelion Sol in general, guys, has not been very prevalent in the meta, maybe in lower ranks, but in Masters, especially, aggro decks have been very prevalent, and therefore Aurelion Sol hasn't seen that much play. Now he has seen a little bit, as an over a top, sort of just a very secure finisher. Now he's going to have a harder time being that. Forcing you to have a total of 25 power means that you have 15 additional power to Aurelion Sol. Now Trundle usually gave you 5, 6, or maybe 7, usually like 8 or something. So you only needed 2 other power. Now you need 7. Where are you getting that 7 power from? So I think Aurelion Sol is now going to be very hard to play unless you're going all in on him, and only if the metagame can permit it. If it's a super aggressive metagame, we're never going to see him. If it's a more control-based metagame and we have to go super late, Aurelion Sol could maybe see play, but even then, the Ruination is going to be a big card there, and Aurelion Sol is going to have a hard time leveling up in the face of that. So I don't know. He seems like a very interesting card. Next, we have Radiant Guardian, who went from 5 power to 4 power. Now, guys, Radiant Guardian is a very neat card, as it's very hard to play around a lot of the time, and it very easily shuts down aggressive decks. The fact that they are nerfing this makes me a little bit scared to see what might happen with the aggressive decks. Are they going to improve? Are they going to get worse, maybe? I don't know. But Radiant Guardian in general definitely needed a nerf. It's just one of those cards that you always have to be aware of when playing Demacia, and almost every single mid-range Demacia deck plays at least 2 copies. So I'm very glad that this card got nerfed. Let me know what you guys think, but I definitely think that being 4 power is going to make a big impact. It's going to gain you at least 2 less HP, possibly 3 if you somehow get 3 attacks in, and that is going to matter a lot. It's a decimate's worth damage that you are getting back if you're playing aggressive, and that matters a lot in certain matchups. And you're definitely going to feel it if you're playing aggro. So definitely think this is a big impact, especially with the metagame right now, and pretty excited to see where this goes as far as the metagame and being meta-defining. So the next card we have is Inspiring Mentor. He went from 1 power and 2 health to 2 power and 1 health. Being a 1 mana, essentially 3/1 at this point, shows that they're trying to make him a more aggressive card compared to what he was before, just being a 1 mana 2/2 overall in stat lanes. Now the problem with this is that we have so many better 1-drops, and you can even see picks right below it. Looks like a much better card, even just compared to Inspiring Mentor. And right now, the only aggressive Ionia deck is the support deck, which doesn't play Inspire Mentor at all because it just doesn't work with the deck. You rather play something with Pix or Flower Child because those synergize really well and can get super powerful very quickly. And if you're comparing this to like Ionia, maybe Elusives, or even just Ionia Noxus, you're going to have other 1-drops. Noxus has plenty of 1-drops. Precious Pet's probably better than this, with the Fearsome mattering more often than just the 1 extra power. And of course, the 2 mana 2/1 or 1 mana 2/1 that can do 1 damage to the Nexus is already doing more damage immediately. And if you're playing Elusives, you'd rather just play Omen Hawk, right? And I feel like that overall, Inspire Mentor is still going to be a bad card for aggro. And Ionia isn't in a good place for aggro unless you're playing support. And support usually uses Demacia's 1-drops. So that sort of Inspire Mentor is not going to see very much play. And next we have Pix. So Pix went from 1 health to 2 health. This matters a lot. It's going to make it much more resilient, much harder to kill, especially in this metagame. And overall, it's going to be a much better support card. The fact that it can't attack turn 1 still means that it's going to get beat by other cards like Flower Child, even just other Demacia cards, especially the Fleet Feather Tracker. But it might start seeing play just for some of that extra support that you might need. You might need the mechanic more often, and this could be might be a viable way of getting that. I'm not really sure. I'm not an expert on that deck, but I definitely feel like it's better now. But still, you want that turn 1 attack when you're playing an aggressive deck. That matters a whole lot. So next we have Jack the Winner. He went from a 5 mana 5/6 to a 5 mana 5/5. This is going to matter a lot, and you're going to feel worse when playing Jack the Winner because now he's going to trade with most other 5 drops. You could usually play him turn 5, or you can usually play him turn 5 and attack turn 5 or at the beginning of turn 6, and your opponent would either be forced to block and take a bad trade or just take 5, and you actually just cannot take 5. Now being 5 health, they can usually kill it, and therefore you can't get in that nice attack because you need Jack the Winner's Sleep with the Fishes. So the 5 mana 5/5 body matters a lot less than a 5 mana 5/6 body, especially when you're thinking about all the random 5 drops in the meta right now. There are definitely a lot that could take this out, and with Radiant Guardian being one of the only ones that could actually block this really well, it's going to be very difficult to find to make room for 3 Jack the Winners. Now it's going to be usually 2 or even 1. Especially with Radiant Guardian being taken down, you're going to be looking less for over-the-top finishers. And Jack the Winner not being able to get in that attack now is just there for the over-the-top. And the fact that you have to get it over multiple turns when you're playing aggro, you usually don't want to give your opponent any more time than you want them to. It's definitely going to be a much worse card. I can't see it being impossible to play. It's still very strong with the half decimate each turn. But other than that, it's not going to be very useful. Next, we have Petty Officer, which got its health reduced from 2 down to 1 again. So it used to be a 3/1, and now it's a 3/1 again. What we're going to see with this card is it's going to stop seeing play, I think, almost immediately, and then maybe come back a little bit, just because of how easy it is to kill something with 1 health. Make It Rain, Vile Feast, Static Shock. I've talked about these cards in the past. They're all very strong. And when Petty Officer goes down to 1 health and only summons a 1/1 or a Powder Keg, Make It Rain just is able to kill all 3 things very easily, and that just sort of is a feel bad, and it definitely gets you less value. Petty Officer was usually being used in aggressive decks or mid-range style decks, and even control decks to help stall because of the amount of bodies it makes. Now, being much more easily removed in basically any matchup, whether it's mid-range, aggro, control, whatever it is, they can pretty much remove this. Although it's still going to be good against aggro, I think, in most cases. Make It Rain, especially being a card played at Bilgewater, the major aggressive region right now, is going to be very hard to see this card making that cut anymore. So the next card on our list is Bastion. Now, Bastion used to say give an ally spell shield this round, and now it says grant an ally +1/+1 and spell shield permanently until your opponent targets the unit, of course. This is going to matter a crap ton and make this card feel much more powerful than it did, especially for decks like Fiora and Zed, basically the old standalone decks that want to preemptively use the Bastion to give the buff and then use the spell shield to protect it as, sort of a way to ensure the unit doesn't die. And this is going to make it really awkward. You can still use it as a reactive card, but now you can use it proactively very well, and that means you don't exactly have to float spell mana all the time, and especially if you have leftover unit mana, you can just use it on a Bastion and be like, okay, I'm going to use this, and I won't waste any mana. And that feels very powerful, especially at burst speed, no matter when you're playing it or what you're doing with it. The +1/+1 is going to matter a little bit, and an excessive amount of matchups, I think. And just the idea of being able to cast Bastion whenever you want and not having to worry about the spell shield only lasting that round is super strong. Your opponent can't just, target this anymore because, if you cast Bastion preemptively, they can't be like, I'm going to cast a Vile Feast and then a Vengeance. That's just way too much commitment into this spell. You can still use it reactively when they cast the Vengeance, then you're like, okay, a Bastion. But you also force them to use Vengeance on something else because they rather not waste the mana. And, playing this proactively can be very powerful, especially early game, when they're not going to have a lot of answers. And when you need the buff is going to matter a lot too. So I think that this card just got a lot more powerful and a lot more flexible even. Like, it's crazy how much flexibility this card just got. The next card that is on the list is Cosmic Inspiration. So basically, Cosmic Inspiration, besides having the text that all your units get +2/+2, now has the additional, it no longer has the additional text of refilling your spell mana. And that means that this card essentially is now 7 mana instead of what it was 4 mana. And the reason that is because now you can't react to whatever your opponent's going to play. This is a slow speed spell, guys. Usually the idea was you can play this, your opponent just passes, you get the buff, and then after you've gotten the buff, you still have mana to play, and you still have that leftover mana, so you're not spending 7 mana, you're spending 4 mana, and that is very powerful for the effect. So now just being a 7 mana give your units +2/+2 means that instead of being the powerhouse that it was, it's going just to be a very committal. You give your units the buff, and then you hope your opponent can't remove any of them. And that's going to matter in a lot of matchups. And you're not going to want this unless you're going very late in the game. I can't see this mattering in aggro ever. It didn't before. And it can't matter that much in mid-range anymore. Even though you're outscaling your opponent's units, it just costs too much time and mana, and your opponent could already have finished out the game by then. So unless you're going late, like very late, this card is not going to have the same impact that it used to. So next we have Grandfather Romuald. So if you guys have never seen this card, I'm not surprised. This card doesn't see any play. And now, besides granting 1 ally +4 health, it grants 2 allies +4 health. So the idea behind this card is that it's an 8 mana, 8/12 that has Overwhelm Spell Shield. Very powerful if you think about it. But compared to other finishers we have, you'd rather be playing Aurelion Sol, right? Aurelion Sol does a better job closing out the game. He has a much stronger finisher, even with the nerf. Even something like Trundle or Tryndamere can do a better job than this. And it's too slow being 8 mana for any aggressive or even mid-range style decks. So if you think about Targon as a region in general, this card is just way too slow to be an aggressive card and way not slow enough to be a control card. So overall, it's still just not going to work out very well. So next we have Hush. The change from Hush was that now each time you cast it the additional time, it costs 1 more mana. So basically it costs 3 mana, then 4 mana, then 5 mana. So in total cost, if you have 12 mana banked, in total you can cast this 3 times still, which is very strong. It just means you can cast it 1 less time overall. Pretty much that keeps the entire card's identity still intact. It just means it's a little bit more clunky, but overall you're still going to be casting it very easy. It's still going to be played very often. It's still very flexible in the idea that it can deal with certain things that can't be dealt with otherwise. You hush it, and then they cast a spell, then you hush it again. That's still there. And that's part of the problem with the card. It's just way too flexible, way too powerful for spell synergy decks like Heimerdinger and Lee Sin, just decks that really abuse the number of spells you're casting with it. And that is the reason for the third paragraph. If you read it, it states that they're removing Hush's ability to be repeatable. Basically, the identity of what Hush is being removed, and it's just basically becoming our second Purify, which is fantastic. Given how OP this card is in any spell synergy deck, any control deck, any Targon deck in period, unless it's like some super aggro deck, you're playing this card, but now you're not going to after the 1.12 patch. I am super excited to see this card go because it means we might be able to finally get in some They Who Endure. The idea is that Hush can just target it multiple times and there's no way to protect it very well, but because of some certain tools we got, we can actually protect it pretty easily if there's only 1 Hush and if they can't double cast it. So very excited for this nerf coming soon. We can finally bring back They Who Endure, my favorite deck. And overall, this card has proven itself to be a menace, and I will probably never forget how annoyed this card made me, or how annoying this card can be, honestly. So to finish it up, we have Mountain Goat, which his health stat line got buffed from 1 to 2 health. This means that in the current metagame, where we have a lot of 1 damage dealers, this card can actually survive and get in some hits. Now with the strike, create a gem that could be very powerful in a lot of scenarios, although overall Mentor's just still going to be the go-to card for gems. So I don't know, maybe it could see play, probably not when you're comparing it to just the powerhouse that is Mentor, right? Creating 1 gem with this is just not nearly as good as getting 3 off Mentor, right? Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed. That's going to be it for this video. I'm super excited to see the new patch, super excited to see how these changes affect the metagame and where we can go next with our decks. Anyway, guys, make sure to check out the channel, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.